Coming up in today's video, guys, we've got a quite stubborn wax plugs today. They don't want to come out easily for us. My name is Reece Barber. I'm one of the audiologists here at Audiology Associates. So this is actually my patient here. Apologies for not appearing on screen today, guys. It's just trying to get this done very quickly in between my patients for you today, because I'm realizing we're not putting a lot of videos out at the moment. So I'm trying my best to keep up with the uploads. But what we can see, first of all, here, we've got this older, darker type of earwax, and what's happened with this is there is some hair embedded in the wax as well. So what's happened is the wax has dried around that hair, and it makes this plug super tough because everything is connected to each other in here, and it's also stuck to the canal wall. So what I'm doing with the suction tube here, this is the standard size Zollner tube on here. I'm just lifting around the edges, just trying to maneuver this wax down the canal. But it is quite a long old plug, this one. There's a fair old size to it. So the suction tube is managing to pull this down the canal. You can see it's all starting to come forwards, but then we hit a little bit of resistance. Now, the difficulty I think we have here is because it's such a long plug, and don't forget everyone, we have this elongated S shape to an ear canal. As you're pulling this down, that rear section of the plug is hanging on in there because it's just tucked around the second bend, and that's what's just holding this plug in place. So I'm trying to pull down from the top here just to loosen this plug up, just to give us a little bit of leeway here, just to allow a little bit of movement to the plug. So let's drop this down a little bit further. There we go. You just start to see the side just coming forwards. It's on its way, but now we've stopped again. So I'm going to use a slightly different tool. The suction's great, but sometimes if it doesn't hold on to the wax well enough, or we've got a slightly more difficult plug to remove, curettage tools usually work better. So this is something called the Jobson horn. It has this ring section at the end so we can see through it. And we're just going to drop over the top of this plug and pull forwards. Now, you can take a look at this plug. It looks pretty chunky there. That is about half of the original plug that was in there. We take a look back in here now in a second, and you'll see that it actually sheared it off halfway along. So we're going to go back in now. This is the suction tube. Now, why I've switched back to suction rather than keeping in going with the Jobson horn in there is because this part of the plug is much deeper in, which means it's far more difficult to safely get the Jobson horn behind it. So what I always prefer to do is to bring the plug forwards, bring it down the canal, and if we do need to go in there with the Jobson horn, we can do that afterwards. But look at the size of that plug. Now combine that with the first section we removed, and that was a pretty long old plug. We do show you the size of it at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for the ruler shot at the end there, guys. And don't forget, if you do enjoy the videos, you can always like, heart, share, follow, and subscribe for me. And if you have ear problems yourself, make sure you check out the link tree in the description. You can reserve yourself an appointment with myself or the lovely Mr. Taylor Green. We'll get that sorted out for you. So we're back in now. This is the other ear canal. We're going in with a standard size Zollner tube here, just maneuvering this little bit of wax. Now, what's going to complicate things a little tiny bit is that we've got this dry skin just lifting up off the base of the canal. Now, that is going to complicate things ever so slightly because that skin is going to constantly want to flick up in front of the suction, and we have to be mindful of something called clarinetting as well. So clarinetting is where the dry skin gets into the end of the suction tube and vibrates up and down really quickly. And what that does then, it makes a high-pitched shrill whistle in the patient's ear canal, which isn't very pleasant for the patient. So we always try and be mindful of any bits of dry skin in here. Now, this is where you start to see that hair. As we're pulling and trying to tease this plug apart, those hairs are interwoven all the way through it. So you'll see it's actually just breaking pieces off, but it's still pulling at that plug with those hairs. So we've managed to loosen this bottom section. Out this is starting to come. There you go. We're just managing to break this down. It's almost there now. We've almost got it moving. The more of this we can detach from the base of the canal, the easier this plug is going to be to get out. So we're just going to work along this right hand side. You can see how this section is moving, but look just beyond it to the section further back. That section isn't moving at all, which shows me that this front section we've got here has detached from that rear section, and that's why we're getting this movement at the front and not at the back there. So we're going to have to unstick that back section as well. But look at the size of some of these pieces coming away now. We're really starting to break this down. There's that much deeper section there. You can see how this was really holding on, and you'll see why in a second. So we're going to try and spin this plug just because that's quite a narrow portion to get hold of with the suction. So I'm turning it now. There we go. You can see that much smoother underbelly of the wax there. Let's try and hold on to that and see if we can pull that down. But look to the top left corner. You can see how this is a more of a difficult shape to remove. It's more of like a capital L shape there, or a hook shape. So that back section is flicked up, and that's what's stopping it coming forwards. So we're going to drop behind with the Jobson horn. We're only about halfway along the plug, but the whole thing is staying together really well. And this is where we can use that hair in the wax to our advantage. We can pull on it and it's going to draw the remainder up. But look at the size of that plug coming away there. It almost looks like a bone shape, doesn't it? So we've got rid of that section, and there we go. A little tiny bit that have broken off the very back end of the plug. Let's get that out as well. And there's the eardrum beyond, so looking very, very healthy. This is the ruler shot we were talking about earlier. So we've got just over 1 3/4 inches, 4.5